Okay, and thanks everybody for clicking whatever buttons Zoom asks you to click. And now I'm very happy to pass it over to the wonderful Mariella, leads us in our sit today. Thank you so much, Mariella.
Thank you, Brian. And thank you everyone again for being here. So we're gonna practice as we usually do for about 20 minutes or so. And as many of you already did, if you wish to turn your camera on, feel free to do that. Keep her on, whatever makes you feel comfortable and safe. And also find a comfortable position, something that is relaxed, alert. Even if that means laying down and you really need to take care of yourself. Allow yourself to do that. If you want to close your eyes or just gently lowering the gaze. And I am going to ring the bell to signal the begin and the end of practice. And maybe at the sound of the bell, I invite you to use that sound as an invitation to bring all of your attention to this moment, to the present moment. And you may want to start by taking a couple of deeper breaths as you start arriving all of the attention to the body, to this moment. With the inhale, invite the body to soften. And with the exhale, releasing any tension that you're aware is present right now. Dropping down the shoulders and softening the jaw. Also take a moment to orient yourself in the space you're in. And you can do that by noticing the different sounds around you. Noticing smells. Feeling the temperature of the space you're in. We use all of our senses to bring us into this moment and away from the mind, the thinking mind, but more into the feeling of this moment. Moving now the attention to sensations in the body. Bringing awareness to the different points of contact of the body with the chair, the cushion, the sofa. Notice sensations in the back, in the sit bones area. Notice sensations in the legs and feeling the contact of the feet with the ground. And always bringing a sense of curiosity and attention. Bringing awareness now to the whole entire body, and for the next few moments, just resting in the awareness of being here. Noticing what is it like to be alive in this body? What does it feel to inhabit this human body? Nowhere to go, nothing to do, just simply being here. Witnessing this experience. To the best of your abilities, without wishing it to be any different than what it is. Remember, we do this just one moment at a time. Maybe just for a moment, you can be present for all of this experience. And the next moment, you can start again. See if you can feel the heart beating. Can you feel the breath in the body? And for the next few moments, just resting the awareness in the breath. In whichever part of the body is the easiest to experience the breath right now. Just feeling that, feeling the inhale, feeling the exhale. Witnessing the body breathing. Noticing how the body knows how to breathe on its own. You don't need to make it happen. And with curiosity, maybe you can also notice how each moment, each breath is unique. It has never existed before, and it never will. We are practicing to be as present as we can for our lives, for this life, for this moment. And very naturally, the mind will get carried away if it hasn't already. And when you notice the mind getting distracted away from the anchor in this moment, the breath, just notice that the mind got carried away and without judging it, with a lot of kindness, and with a gentle attitude, bring the attention back to the breath. And we do this again and again, as many times as is needed. And just keep being aware of the breath, the inhale, the exhale, noticing the different characteristics of the breath. And perhaps the attention is just a little bit more settled. And I'd like to invite you now to expand the attention to the whole entire body. As the body continues to breathe, now noticing other sensations that are present in the body. Perhaps taking a moment to acknowledge the overall state of the physical body. What's the overall state of the body right now? Is it feeling tired, rested? Is the physical body feeling light or heavy? Maybe you notice sensations that are unpleasant. You notice pain being present in the body, or the absence of pain. Just notice, taking a moment to recognize what's here, and to the best of your ability, see if you can allow it to be here, just for a moment, allowing it exactly as it is. In this moment, this physical body feels like this. It's all welcome in this space. Even if it's just for a moment. And now taking a moment to acknowledge the activity of the mind, the overall state of the mind, and see if you can recognize thoughts being present, the different thoughts that are present, or the absence of thoughts. Again, just taking a moment to acknowledge and allow the thoughts to arise and to pass by. It's all just phenomenon that arises and passes by. We're here just witnessing that. And again, to the best of our abilities, of your abilities, without wishing it to be any different, without clinging, attaching to the thoughts or specific thoughts, and without pushing them away. What happens if we just let them be here? And also noticing how they change. This moment is impermanent. Now taking a moment to acknowledge what's in the heart space, the emotional world. What emotions are present right now? Maybe labeling could help you. Might be of benefit to label the different emotions. And again, we're always bringing curiosity to the moment, a curious attention that is also kind. And again, to the best of your abilities, without judgment, without wishing that these different experiences, these different emotions are different. If you notice judgment, if you notice a certain pattern, that's okay. We bring awareness to that. This practice really gives us an insight into our mind. And so see if you can acknowledge and allow these emotions to arise and to pass by. Maybe you notice where in the body you experience them. And so coming back to the whole entire body. And for the next few moments, see if you can allow all of this experience to be here. Emotions, sensations, thoughts. They're all welcome in this space. They're all accepted, if possible. And if you notice resistance, judgment, that's even accepted too. We accept all of it. We hold it with an awareness that is kind, that is loving. All of the different parts of you are welcome in this space. We're cultivating an awareness that allows all of the different parts of you to be here. Holding space for all of it. Maybe take a moment and notice if there is a word or a phrase that could feel or be of support to you in this moment. And I invite you to offer that to yourself. Maybe a word or a phrase like, I love you, I'm here for you, this is hard. Anything that feels of support. And allow yourself to receive that support. To be for yourself in this way. As we approach the end of this practice, I would like to end with inviting you to bring attention to gratitude and find something that you can be grateful for in this moment. Even if it's something so small, notice how gratitude feels in the body. And also take a moment and find gratitude for yourself for having made the time to be here and to be with you in this way. You could have been doing something completely different, but you chose to be here and gift this time for you. And so when I ring the bell, I'd like to invite you to see if you can make the rest of your day a continuation of your practice, so your practice doesn't stop here. Your practice continues in your awake hours, where you continue bringing awareness that is kind, that is curious, that is non-judgmental. When you're ready, coming back to bringing movement to the body, gently opening the eyes without rushing, letting light, colors, and shapes come to you. And if you like to come in back to the screen, Thank you all for your practice, for being here. Welcome to those of you that join us midway through the seat, and now pass it on to the wonderful, amazing, talented, smart,
More,
handsome
more.
guest speaker and host, Brian. I'm looking forward to our talk, Brian, or to your talk.
Thank you so
And
much.
yeah, thank you all for being here and practicing together.
Thank you so much, Mariella, for leading us today. And it's so nice to sit with everyone. Yeah, thank you, Mariella. And hi, everybody. I'm Brian, and Mariella and I are so happy that we're all here together. It's been 3 years since we started this group here at InsightLA, and we are the InsightLA Mindfulness and Deep Suffering Practice Group. We're an affinity group. We're a great group. Patricia, everything okay with the audio, or is it looking okay? Okay, just want to make sure you're okay. Okay, good. We take care of everybody here. We practice the buddy system here in our affinity group. And Mariella and I also like to call this the Hope group. And Hope, H-O-P-E, stands for both hope. My goodness, I just saw something the other day, and maybe I want to share it. Is it too late? Oh, this is what happens when you try to improvise and do things spontaneously. Doesn't often work. Although today there will be a theme of spontaneity. I'll put that in the chat here for those of us who are here. This is a quotation, Mignon McClellan. Hope is the feeling we have that the feeling we have is not permanent. Isn't that nice? Hope is the feeling we have that the feeling we have is not permanent. I just saw that recently and I thought, yeah. And so our group, we call this the Hope group, which has all the connotations of hope. And it's an acronym that stands for H-O-P-E, healing ourselves through the present experience. Healing ourselves through the present experience. This mindful awareness, this practicing, not if, but when we fall away, when we get lost, falling into the future, the past, stories, fantasies, worries, etc., which is our human nature. It's our birthright to be wandering and wondering and exploring in our minds. When we realize it, when we realize that we're lost, that is the moment of mindfulness. That in that moment, that is the moment of, oh, there I go again. And in that moment, we have choice. Now, today, I'm glad to be talking about roles, a little bit about role theory, a little bit about role fatigue, which sort of intuitively, I think makes sense to a lot of us, like mindfulness sort of intuitively makes sense. Yeah, I want to be mindful. And likewise, I think a lot of us are in roles in our lives. We've been enrolled in roles in our lives, some of which we are okay with, some of which sometimes we're not okay with, and it's exhausting. So I hope it's a benefit, this talk. If there's anything I share that is causes any harm, which is possible, but if I cause any harm with anything I say, just know it wasn't my intention, number one. And if I say anything that doesn't quite land right for you or doesn't feel right, just let it go right on by, and take the things that feel right for you and resonate with you. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Boop. And slideshow. Okay, and hopefully that looks, yeah, everybody's seeing that, right? Okay, good. And let me bring up my screen here so everything is centered. Okay, so role fatigue and deep suffering. And I'll talk for about 15 minutes or so, maybe a little bit more, but I'm going to absolutely stop talking. I'm going to set a timer for 20 minutes. And when the timer goes off, I am going to shut up. Okay. Because I'm really looking forward to when we turn off the recording and hear people's, impressions from this and the sit today, and practice the most important thing of all, which is connection. Okay, but first and very important, Katja, look what I got. Look what I got. Now, this has little to nothing to do with roles, but it's extremely important. Look at that face. Come on. Look at that baby. I want to play fetch. Now look at this baby. I don't want to play. I'm eating. Talk to me after lunch. I'm not interested in playing fetch right now. By the way, I think that's an appetizer. I don't think that's the entree. Speaking of appetizers, well, we all need fiber and we have to get it in whatever way we can. Very cute. Oh, hello. Look at these little sweeties. And we all need to shower. We all need a good bath from time to time. Just not all of us have our own shower head attached to our bodies, which seems pretty handy. And finally, perhaps the most important photo I've ever shared, ever, here. Alpacas that need haircuts. I don't know why, but I can't get over how cute that is. And we all need haircuts. Okay. Okay. So a little bit about role fatigue. And I'm really excited to share this. I'm sort of new to this area of psychology, sociology. There's some really interesting stuff here. I'm going to be talking a little bit about spontaneity later. Speaking of spontaneous, I'm doing some things spontaneously here. And just for the folks here, you don't have to click on it right now, but I'm sharing a really interesting podcast about Ella Fitzgerald and her experience when she was young and how she was helped with some of these uh, psychology, sociology, group therapy approaches. She was helped, and there's a podcast recently about her involvement in some of these therapeutic approaches. For those who find this teaching helpful, or excuse me, find it interesting and want to know more, this is a really great podcast. Malcolm Gladwell talking about Ella Fitzgerald's experience with grief when she was young and how she was helped by some of these techniques. Okay, so role fatigue. And why don't I start here with a quotation from someone who I'll be referencing today, Jacob L. Moreno. They who wear too many hats at once, all at once, soon find that none of them fit. And just a few words about Jacob Moreno. We don't have tons of time here today, but here's a really cute photo of him in a very cute outfit. There was a writer from Life magazine in the 1960s that described him looking like a bullfrog, which was his wife Zerka did not appreciate at all. My husband does not look like a bullfrog. He's a very handsome man. Jacob Moreno is a huge figure in my field, our fields, but he's not very well known. Some people think his contribution is as significant as that of Freud, if you can believe it. Some people think his contribution is as important as Freud, Jung. There's a few reasons why more people don't know about Moreno. Number one, he was a little prickly. He was a little he didn't really fit into polite society in New York and London and other places, Vienna. There's a story about he got into Freud's face after Freud presented one time, and he got up to him, and after Freud finished his presentation, Moreno walked up to him and said, "Mr. Freud, where you stop with your patients, where you stop, that's where I start. That's where I begin with the patients." And so Moreno, one of Moreno's contributions was he disagreed with Freud. Freud thought the most important thing is this is what they call it, intrapsychic, which means Freud thought people are, I'm paraphrasing here, and maybe I shouldn't be saying this because it's recorded, but Freud thought that intrapsychic means you're messed up on the inside and you need to sort that out, that we are all struggling with internal angst, internal contradictions, internal stuckness. These are my words. But Freud believed that it's all about intra-psychic. And you should find somebody who has a sofa you can lay down and stare at the ceiling and just talk until you feel better. Okay, I know there's more to it than that. Moreno didn't think that it was an intra-psychic or intrapersonal problem. He actually saw that all problems are interpersonal, which means it's all about our relationships between people, And the period of time in which he was working, the early 20th century time frame, that's when we saw this flowering of the social sciences, social. And Moreno really put the social into social sciences. He was the first person to ever sort of come up with the idea of group therapy. Group therapy. Moreno said people shouldn't just be staring at the ceilings, they should be looking at each other. So I don't want to go too much into the weeds here, but I thought you all would find it interesting that Moreno thought the problem in our lives is not that we inside us, but rather between us. And today you'll hear a little bit about roles and why we get stuck. So he is the father he's made huge contributions to psychotherapy, sociology, all the words that have social in it. I'm a social worker, social. Um, yeah, really important. Not well known, but he ought to be. And sociometry, which is one of the fields he created this field, which is the studying and the measuring of social relationships and group dynamics. And he did this in various places. And some people consider him to be the father of modern social networking. Maybe we wouldn't have Facebook if it wasn't for Jacob Moreno. Again, lots to learn about him, but today I want to focus on um, roles. Not dinner rolls, but roles. Okay. Enough of the jokes here. This is not comedy hour. Role theory. So Jacob Moreno, let me just share this quote here. I think this is really lovely. Roles are not only a part of life, but they often become life itself. We lose our roles and we die. And so that we have these different uh, roles that we play, the social roles in human behavior and the impact. He was fascinated with the impact of the social roles on human behavior. There's some stories of him going to playgrounds and in Vienna and observing, looking how these kids just on their own, just spontaneously, without any without any adult saying, you are now the alien and you are the space explorer. No, it was just children automatically just created and constructed these roles. And these roles, just as it did for the children running around the park or the playground, it's also true for us grown-ups, grown kids, that the roles we take provide us with a sense of identity and purpose. I'm a therapist, right? Gives me a purpose. A teacher. We'll talk about some other roles in a moment. And it does shape, and I think you're going to start hearing some pieces about the fatigue or role stuckness, is the roles we take or inhabit or put on us. They shape our social expectations. They shape the expectations. They shape the norms. And so it's definitely a double-edged sword. And so some of the roles that we take, for example, and here's a picture of some kids doing what kids do. And kids have been doing as long as there have been kids. How long have there been kids? A while. And whether it was 10,000 years ago, about the time where we figured out how to farm and plant and we stopped wandering around, maybe we had a dedicated spot near the campfire, near the home base, wherever people stopped wandering, and kids could play dragons and gods, or maybe playing. And later on, and growing up, there were people that played around the playground with me, cops and robbers. Okay, and some of us didn't like the roles that we were put into. You know, I just love this photo of a teacher and students, and I just love their faces of engagement and smiling and talking. I also love how close the teacher is sitting. And I'm a new teacher, so this is the kind of teacher I think I want to be, engaged and present. And so the role of a teacher, okay, which is really stressful. Maybe we have some teachers here, and how exciting and thrilling and challenging it can be to be in that role of teacher and passing along what information. The Dalai Lama said the role of a teacher in a classroom is as much to communicate a sense of faith as anything else, and not religious faith or spiritual faith. But Dalai Lama said that a teacher in a classroom is communicating faith to the students to keep going, keep going, keep going. So the role of a teacher, the role of a medical professional, okay, wearing a white coat and a stethoscope, and there's expertise. Um, some medical professionals, not some, many medical professionals have experienced what happens when somebody comes into the room and they say, "Fix my leg, fix it, please, it hurts." And but is it the doctor or the medical professional that fixes the leg, or do they create a situation where time could ultimately fix the leg, right? But doctors and medical professionals feel like, goodness gracious, my role is to heal people. There's pressure. The role of a parent or a caregiver, and all the things that go along with being in that position of responsibility and authority and care and love. So many hats that the caregiver wears. And we have a lot of grandparents now. I was reading an article recently about how many grandparents in America and everywhere who are now raising children as a result of the opioid crisis and so many of the overdose deaths in America. So we have so many grandparents raising their grandchildren now in the primary caregiver role. Just an aside, but I wanted to share that. And maybe the role of a counselor or a mental health provider. I tried to find a photo of a therapist not holding a notepad. It's very hard to find a picture of a therapist not scribbling furiously. Not all of us write when we're talking to people. But the role of a therapist. Some people think therapists we can read people's minds. We can't, but there is a sense of, oh my God, the therapist can see everything inside me. We can't. It's stressful. It's hard being a therapist sometimes. I have this quote from Franz Kafka. It's a little small, sorry, but he said, "I was ashamed of myself when I realized life was a costume party and I attended with my real face." And I always wondered, what was it that made Kafka such a, a, a great writer, a great storyteller? And maybe he, like some others, realized what was going on in our society, like Moreno, and was able to take a step back and say, "Oh, what if this young man was no longer just a man, but he was a cockroach?" Wait, was he a cockroach, or was it a? I think it was a cockroach, right? An insect. Yeah, Patricia. It was a cockroach. Yeah. And so, what would happen if we changed these roles or these masks? I wanted to share that quote. And now I wanted to share a little bit about these themes of role making versus role taking. Role making refers to the construction and the negotiation of roles. And when we have the ability to redefine our roles and shape our roles, um, and all the needs and the issues that come about. So role making. Now, if that sounds okay, sort of okay, there's also the role taking. And role taking, on the other hand, involves uh, assuming and performing the roles that other people and maybe society assigns us or expects of us. Um, and well, there was a time not so long ago that there was only, what, 3 jobs that a woman could have in America, right? Maybe there was at a time there was only 1 job. And of course, there was a time where there was no jobs available for women. So the performing of roles and feeling that pressure of the roles that were, and by the way, I don't want to gloss over, just to in case some people's minds are, is Brian going to say the 3 jobs? teacher, nurse. Wait, shit, what was the third one? I'm sorry. I had it and I lost it. Can anybody put it in the chat? Or say it? Darn it.
Telephone operator.
Telephone operator. Telephone operator, seamstress, mom for sure. Typist. I mean, these, thank you all, by the way. Sorry, I got a little flummoxed there. The role of a presenter is not easy, always. So these limited roles, okay. And leading to role conflict, role stress. And it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. And there's role fatigue. Now, again, these are some of the ways in which Moreno and others conceptualize it, but it does make intuitive sense, doesn't it? The exhaustion, the strain experienced when we feel the demands and the responsibilities associated with these social roles. And again, just maybe making some comments. You know, I've been looking at the news like I know everyone, most of us see what's happening in this country. The roles and the constriction that that women often have, you know, what you can do, what you can't do. And those who occupy multiple roles in society, and for some of us it's hard, okay? We are in the role of an employee, a spouse, a parent, a caregiver, a friend, and so many other roles, and fulfilling these roles. And by the way, I showed a picture earlier of a medical professional provider. There's also the social role of a patient. Can there be a doctor without a patient? That's interesting, right? So the social role of a patient. And I remember there was a period of time, this is probably something I would share after we turn off the recording, but there was a period of time where I was going to the doctor maybe once every 2 to 4 weeks. I was going to see the doctor every 2 to 4 weeks for maybe, felt like it was probably between a year and 2 years. I was going to see a doctor all the time. There was some problems I was having. So the role of a patient, and I would go home and I would still inhabit that role. I didn't know how to take it off. I didn't know how to take that hat off. And this role fatigue can have a detrimental effect on us physically, emotionally, psychologically. Jacob Moreno said, this quote may take, I had to read it a few times to get it, but the greatest disorder is to see the present role and to ignore the role the present is playing. The greatest disorder is to see the present role and to ignore the role the present is playing. So, for example, I'm a therapist, right? And during the daytime, I'm a therapist and I'm doing the things that therapists do when the sun is up. But sometimes, let's say on a Sunday, for example, I'm not a therapist, but this is just one example. But sometimes I need to play that role given what's happening in the present moment. And a lot of us don't think about it. Again, I'm glad to be talking about this in a space of mindfulness where taking our awareness, taking our attention, just like Mariella was sharing with us, when we take our awareness and attention into the body, for example, and notice the sensations in our body connected to the breath, we're noticing. And likewise, when we notice, oh, this role of a teacher in a classroom, and even being able to see the trees in the forest, am I more than just a teacher? But some of us as teachers, we feel like I got to be a teacher 24/7. It's exhausting. And role fatigue really is connected to the societal structures, right? And sometimes the limited support we feel in our lives. So I should have moved the slide a few minutes ago. The expectations, the obligations, the pressures associated with the various roles. And it does become overwhelming and it exceeds our capacity to manage them effectively. And is it any surprise that some of us use other ways to manage them? And I don't really care that, overeating isn't healthy, but it's effective. You see what I'm saying? Like when I'm overwhelmed, I'll overeat. It helps. Drugs, alcohol, shopping, all kind, being vague about something. I don't want to, don't show me. Don't show me how much I spent on coffee this month. Don't show me. So we do our best to manage it. And so for many of us, we're suffering in silence. Now I'm at 19 minutes, so let me just share briefly a little bit about some of the ways that what do we do about it, right? I've painted a picture of role fatigue, role stuckness, some of the challenges we feel. So I just want to talk about a few ways that what we can do to help and what does help. Role exploration and role clarification. It's Moreno was really into the importance of individuals actively participating in the process of both role making and role taking and clarifying. Some of us as teachers, I'll speak for myself as a teacher, I have a really hard time saying no, really hard time saying no. Can you cover me? No. I say yes, even though the real answer is no. As a therapist, sometimes I have a hard time saying no. No. I can't do that. Right. And so clarifying, another word for this is boundaries, right? And we can, and then identify potential sources of role fatigue. Oh, I get really tired when I'm asked to do things and then feel like I can't say no, right? And speaking of boundaries, we're negotiating and talking, communicating our needs. I need a day off. As a mom, who, by the way, uh, a mom who has to play the role in a family of, well, let me just throw out some things that could happen. A mom who feels like she has to simultaneously be the perfect June Cleaver mother. She has to be Bridget Bardot, the wife. I'm throwing out some interesting references, but this is where my mind's at. She has to be the problem solver. She has to be the accountant. She has to be the driver. She has to be. And is it any surprise that so many people say, this is too much? I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted. Supportive networks and social connections. And I'm so glad we have a space here where we can connect around topics that we all resonate with, like suffering, like deep suffering, like grief, like feelings of hopelessness, people who get it. And I think it's really helpful when we find people that can say, me too. I love it when people say, me too. Me too. I get it. Me too. I don't need people giving me advice, telling me, you should really work less. Oh, thanks. Oh, I hadn't thought of that. Thank you. Hmm. Now, self-care and reflection. I think what I know what we're doing here is a form of self-care. Every time I say self-care, what I really mean is self-love, self-regard, self-respect. This insight meditation that we're practicing here, reflections. Maybe some of you have thought today, well, this is really interesting. What roles am I taking in my life? What roles did I choose? What roles were thrust onto me? What roles am I a little tired of? Do I need a vacation from? And it can help us evaluating our goals, our values, our priorities, so we can make conscious choices, just like Mariella led us in that meditation. And the moment of mindfulness is not when we're just present here, everything's fine all the time, because it's not. Even the Dalai Lama says his mind wanders. When the Dalai Lama or Mariella, and they're both on the exact same level, exactly the same level, Mariella Bravo, Dalai Lama, parallel. When our when our mind wanders, when we feel lost, and then when we notice it, when we notice it, ah, when we notice it, that's the moment of mindfulness. And in that moment, we have choice, right? Choice. And likewise, bringing some awareness to these roles. Oh, I'm a teacher, but I'm actually in the role of parent right now or caregiver in the classroom. Oh, it's like that aha moment. That aha moment is so important because in that moment we have choice. We do. It's not often easy choice, but it's hard to make choices for me and others, I think, but having some awareness which leads to choice. Yeah. And connection, finally, wrapping it up, finally. Connection to other people that get it, you know, and not the kind of connection where someone says, you know, being a mom isn't that hard. You know, you should stop complaining about it. Not that's not the kind of connection. You know, being a teacher, being a doctor, you should be grateful. You make so much money. Doctors make so much money, right? Therapists are so easy. You just sit there and you just listen to people all day long. That's not the kind of connection. By the way, we do more than that. I'm pretty sure we do more than that. So connection with other people, and this connection also includes the people that have died, that still live in our heart, that we're still connected to. So connection with other people with whom we have a safe connection, right? Non, un, yeah, positive regard. Oh, connection to ourselves, right? And connection to meaning. What am I going to do with this life? What am I going to do with this day? What am I going to do with this breath? Am I going to notice this breath or am I not going to notice this breath? Again, just a choice. All healing comes from connection and community. Jacob Moreno believed, and he has many contributions. The people in the field of trauma still, like Bessel van der Kolk, still say, and by the way, Jacob Moreno, his theories are 100 years old, and they were in almost every state-run mental health facility. They were in every VA. They disappeared in the 1960s and 70s, unfortunately, in America. It's tremendously popular in other countries still, like in Brazil. But these approaches that he created, because he believed that we are all hurt, we are all wounded by the group, right? Anytime there's two or more people, it's a group. So those of us that were hurt in families, hurt at school, hurt at jobs, hurt in relationships, hurt out on the street. So Jacob Moreno believed that if all the hurt and the harm happened at the group level, remember the difference between intra and inter? Moreno said, no, Freud, you got it all wrong. It's not about what's happening inside us. It's about what's happening between us. So if the hurt and the wounds happen at the group level, the healing must happen at the group level too. And hence sociometry, which I talked about, psychodrama, which Jacob Moreno created, which is still the #1 intervention to help with trauma. Psychodrama is the best. EMDR is great. Somatic experiencing is great. Trauma sensitive yoga is great. It's all great. Psychodrama is still right up there at the top because we can heal at the group level too. Me too. Me too. And isn't that what we're doing here together in this Zoom room? Me too. And an opportunity maybe for us to either put some of our roles and our hats down for a while, just be in the role of meditator, be in the role of listener, be in the role of just a human here, just that role. What are we without our roles, right? And I'm so glad that we can do this over Zoom. We're using this technology, and it really does feel like we're all sitting together in a circle in this space, or a semicircle if you want to be seriously, if you want to be a little bit of a stickler about it. But we're all here together, supporting each other, reflecting, and thank goodness connection works. It always works. It worked 100 years ago. It worked 10,000 years ago, and it works today. Whew. And with that, I am done. I'm going to turn off my recording now. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Oh, look at this, clapping and oh, thank you. As you can tell, I'm really into this stuff. I just started. Oh, wait. It's a recording?